Welcome to the brand new Lot B and Bullshit White Sox podcast. I'm your host, White Sox Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at WSXMatt. And immediately, I know what you're thinking. Another fucking White Sox Twitter podcast. I know. I get it. There's a million out there. And I get it. But I want to just say, stick with me. Um, you know, we're just gonna talk some bullshit around. Um, I look forward to maybe having other people on the show, but right now it's a solo act, baby. So let's dig right into this, okay? Romy Gonzalez, right? When we saw him in spring training, his numbers were really good, and we saw a lot of positive things from him. And immediately after spring training, I'm like, he's ready to go. He's ready to contribute at the major league level. And to start the season, that wasn't the case. And I've got his numbers pulled up. So from opening day to his right elbow or right shoulder inflammation, whichever, on May 2nd, so from opening day to May 2nd, 36 plate appearances, 5 hits, 1 extra base hit, and 36 plate appearances. A 139 average, a negative 21 WRC plus. Okay. That's on a scale, that's with 100 being average. It's like unfathomable how bad he was. And when he came back from the IL, I was like, this guy needs to go to Charlotte because even when he was healthy, he wasn't hitting. So like he needs to ramp up but I guess they knew what I guess we didn't know, or they knew something we didn't know, right? Because after we returned from the IL on May 19th, um 33 plate appearances, 10 hits in those 33 plate appearances, with 7 of those 10 hits being extra base hits. 3 homers, 323 average, 774 slugging, and a 191 WRC plus. And that's 91 points over average. Obviously, I know that's not sustainable whatsoever. I get it. But if he can just be slightly above average for the rest of the year, I'm rocking with it. We're cool. Um, and it's just we need a guy at second base. I mean, pretty much, I can't even think of the last time we had a really good hitting second baseman. I mean, Yomer Sanchez was a phenomenal fielder, Gold Glover. He was swinging a fucking pool noodle. And he was a really fun guy, really fun rebuild guy. But beyond that, it wasn't very good. And then we had the Josh Harrison experience, which I was a fan, but his bat just wasn't there. If Romy can just be decent, like I'll be happy because we've been so deprived of production from the second base spot for seemingly years. Um so yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. Another topic I want to get to though, just to shift, Keenan Middleton, man, what a great addition he's been this year. Um, just a, and it just goes to show you that when Rick Hahn spent all that money on the bullpen, he got Liam, he got Graveman, he got Kelly. I don't know. I mean, he got a few other guys, Vince Velasquez. Um, and Hendricks and Graveman have been great, but Joe Kelly over the course of his deal hasn't lived up to it. He had a really good start to this year, but his last 2 outings have just been abysmal. So we're I'm still holding out hope that he's going to figure it out, but he needs to figure it out. So Keenan Middleton this year, right? I'm pretty sure he signed. Like, I don't even know if the Sox even announced his signing on the account. Like, I'm pretty sure it was a minor league deal or some shit, but it was the base minimum. You know, he pretty much held a 5 ERA his entire career. And he's just been nothing short of amazing. Okay, let's read off his line here. Okay, 18.2 innings pitched, a 1.45 ERA. Crazy, right? And that's considering that he has a 325 batters have a 325 BABIP against him. So guys are getting relatively lucky hitting against him, and he's still maintaining like a really good, a phenomenal line, a 2.38 FIP. So I mean, it's a little bit higher than his ERA. Well, almost an entire point, but you know, it's not like Gaudy. It's like, you know, a decent bit higher. 13 Ks per nine. Pretty damn good. And you know, that other night I got irked by Pitching Ninja a little bit because you know, Ben Joyce was filthy and he was debuting and he was great. But Keenan Middleton struck out Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani back to back swinging. And he didn't tweet that. I had a bit of an issue with that because, you know, Ben Joyce striking out like Romy Gonzalez and Gavin Sheets. Is that as impressive as striking out Ohtani and Trout? Swinging? Getting them to whiff? He made him look silly. I really think that he can be, you know, something special for this team. Now, I don't think that he's going to maintain a 1.5, 1.45 ERA the rest of the year. That would be absurd for me to assume that. But I do think if he can just give us a sub 3 ERA, if he ends the year with a sub 3 ERA, we're chilling. We're cool. But he's just been phenomenal, and Greg Santos he's still very good, and he started off the year great. Another example of, hey, you don't really have to spend a ton of money on a bullpen for it to be really good. You don't. And that's not the truth for every other position. You know, you can't really cheap out on outfielders because you need to spend some money. But when Rick Hahn spent all that money on that super bullpen for it to be super shit, that didn't make any sense. But I digress. Another thing I want to talk about is this vibe I get from the players. And it's just the little things, you know. It's like after the game, they'll zoom in on the dugout and they'll lose like 15-2 to the Royals, and the guys are like, you know, smiling. He's smiling, you know, they're smile. It's like, dude, you should be pissed off, you know? You should take this personally. It's kind of like this, like, Jay Cutleritis, you know, like the old Jay Cutler don't care meme. Smoking Jay who's just like, whatever, fuck it, you know, we lost. That's what Jay Cutler was for 10 years. He was mediocre and wasn't a leader. I digress. It just seems like guys don't have that dog in them. They don't want to win. They don't give a shit. They get their game checks and they go home. And it bothers me. I don't know if there's been a culture shift in the locker room. I don't know if that's still a holdover from the TLR experience, but something's got to change because, and even late in games, like I remember in 2020, I think they led the league in like 7th inning comebacks. And if they get down a couple runs after the 5th, pretty much the game's over. Because either the bullpen will blow it. I mean, first of all, the offense just it just seems like they're just dead in the water once they get down. They get down and they stay down. And it doesn't seem like they have that fight in them that, you know, it bothers me. And I'm not going to name names, but we kind of assume, you know, who those people are. But so like I just want to, for people that know me for the longest time, Jake Berger, his story, it's such a great story. I mean, obviously it's filled with trials and tribulations. Those 2 Achilles injuries, you know, you go from this high of being drafted as a first round pick in Major League Baseball. You're this huge, you know, talent, and then to be stuck in the minors, and then the Achilles injuries, and then COVID happened, so he was on that taxi squad, you know, and then last year the team still treats him like a quadruple A player, like a guy that's good enough, that's too good for triple A hitting, like he just torches triple A hitting, but he can't seem to figure it out at the major league level. But I thought that he was getting somewhere last year, and they weren't giving him enough time to figure it out. With that being said, well, actually, for people, I tweeted this a month or 2 ago, but during the pandemic, you know, the lockdowns, it was tough for a lot of us. Pretty much everybody, but, you know, me being in college and pretty much having no social life for 6 months, completely no, just sitting in the basement, you know, playing Xbox and doing nothing. It was depressing, and it was a pretty tough time, you know, in my life. And I was basically just tweeting, and there was no Sox games to go to. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do in my life, is to go to Sox games, have a couple beers, and watch the boys. And just being there, you know, it's the best. And that was taken away. And so Jake Berger goes on the White Sox Talk podcast with Chuck Garfien. He starts talking about like his mental and emotional issues, you know, dealing with those injuries, having these high expectations, and then feeling like he personally, you know, failed to meet those and was struggling. And I'm so glad that he's found a footing and he's found a position on the roster. So after that podcast, he said on the podcast, my Twitter DMs are open. If you need to talk about it. And so, like, you know, going through a lot of stuff, I was like, hey, you know, I'm a dude with like 100 followers. There's no way, you know, a big major league prospect would respond to my DMs. And he did. And he helped me through a tremendously tough time in my life. And I'll be forever grateful. And I just feel so proud of him, because we talked for at least a month, like pretty much every day, just, you know, catching up. And then obviously, you know, he gets busy with everything. I got busy with things. The lockdown ended, but what he did for me truly helped me through a pretty tough time in my life. With that being said, it really makes me sad seeing him hit on the road. Because in his entire career, he on the road, it's been an issue, but even more so this year. I'm going to just read off his splits on the road, okay? His 59 plate appearances on the road this year, a 148 batting average, 259 slugging, and a 24 WRC plus. Now, that's just not cutting it. That's terrible. And it's sad to see. It's like, it's this weird thing where you see him at home and he's mashing and the burger bombs and he's going 3 for 4 and he looks like he could be the answer. And then we go on a road trip and he doesn't look like the same dude. I'm hoping he'll figure it out It's a very small sample size in the grand scheme of things, but I do think that it is a bit of an issue. Um, I just need to see more. I need to see more. Um, it's just really disappointing right now. And I want to talk about, so that's that, with everything being said, sorry, I'm stalling a little bit right now. My bad. Um Luis Robert, man. Stud. Stud. And you definitely can see when he's on. And you can definitely see when he's not on because he gets that into that old habit of swinging at that slider down and away from right-handers. Or even any breaking pitch out and away, he's swinging at it and he's whiffing on it. Because I feel like a lot of times he feels like he needs to play hero ball when he's got enough raw power. I mean, like a lot of the home runs you see, man, it doesn't look like it's real. It looks like those prime Tanaka memes where the guys would like bunt and then the it would be a homer. It's like the juiced balls. He just flicks it and it goes like 450 feet. He's got effortless power. And as a defender, he's almost second to none in terms of his talent. Now, sometimes like that Detroit game at the end, where Joe Kelly, there was a ball that went into the outfield and he like did the weird like one knee slide or whatever. And I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, all you got to do, man, is just cut off the ball, throw it in. Maybe Riley Green gets to second. But he does a stand-up triple because he decides that he wants to do some goofball shit. He wants to have a little tomfoolery, But he's a young kid. He's 25, so he's gonna make some mental mistakes, and that's okay. Because what he brings to the plate and what he brings to the outfield 99% of the time is great. But another thing is my only concern with him is I feel like there's this perpetual cycle of 2 weeks, he'll look like Cuban Mike Trout, an MVP and a dark horse MVP and an all-star, and he's arrived, and then like that he'll go to being like one of the worst hitters I've ever seen. I know hitting a home run every game and going 3 for 4 with a bunch of extra base hits isn't sustainable. And that's something I'll say, like, because you'll see a guy go on a heater and you're like, man, like, it's a 162 game season. So one thing I've learned is like you got to be patient with guys sometimes, but patience can only, be so much before you kind of get frustrated. But if Luis can find that medium between, that guy who's hitting a homer every game versus the guy that's going 0 for 30, you'll have, he already has damn near the same F4 as he did last year. He has a 1.9 this year in like 50 games. By the way, he's been healthy. Knock on wood, but he's been completely healthy this year. Essentially, nothing, no injuries this year. So it's been really nice to see that from him. And, just knock on wood that he stays healthy because he's looks like a stud. And he's already hit more homers than he did all of last year. So something's going right. Something's clicking. But for a lot of other guys, I can't really say the same. Benintendi's been pretty disappointing. Like going in, I knew that he wasn't going to be Aaron Judge. I knew he wasn't going to be Mookie Betts. I knew he wasn't going to be the superstar. I knew he's going to be a solid contributor, but he doesn't really hit for power at all. You've got everyday guys like TA, Benny. Neither of them have hit a homer. It's 2023. It's a long ball game. If you're not hitting long balls and you're hitting little, noodle shots, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to contribute all that much to the offense. But he had the streak where, he can lace some singles. He could slap some singles around. But for the most part, his slugging is really low. And I mean, I think he has an under 100 WRC plus. And, he does have the largest deal in Sox history. But if you look at like the 15 mil AAV he's getting, that's not really a lot, But to us, it seems like, oh, he's underperforming. And, we paid him all this money. But like for most other teams, that 15 mil a year isn't really a big deal. But there's still a lot of time. He's played every day. I think he's been pretty much mid, for what it's worth. TA, and that's another thing. Tim Anderson, right? 5 WAR guy, pretty much from 2019 to 2021. You could bet on him to get a 5 WAR hit 300 plus. Right now he's hitting around 260 and he's got a negative F WAR this year. And I've been a guy that's defended him, and I've publicly said I want this guy to retire in black and white. And he's the heart and soul of this team. And I've given him praise for years, but he is not cutting it right now. He just isn't. And I said, last week, hot take, but he needs to lead off. He needs to set the tone. You move him down in the order, it might fuck with him mentally. And I know there's a lot of things that are probably fucking with him mentally right now, but he earned that role, and I think you kind of need to let him hit out of that. It's an unpopular opinion, I know, but I feel like he'll figure it out eventually. And I guess there does need to be a point where you move him down, where you say, hey, like there needs to be this. I'm sure in the front office, they probably have, some kind of idea of what point that would be. But I still believe he can, be that guy. But my faith is waning a little bit. And even I was listening to 670 and Josh Nelson, shout out Josh Nelson, but he was talking about how like Tim's bat speed just looks slow. And, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like you watch him last few years, one of the quickest hands in baseball, get to the ball, drive it, And when he was hitting Oppo for homers, and I feel like I've seen him ground out softly to the shortstop at least like a couple dozen. Well, yeah, at least a few dozen times. Seems like every game he's grounding out to the shortstop. Like he's not even hitting the ball in the air. He's got a 66 WRC plus this year. It's like 30 points under league average. You can't have a leadoff guy doing that. You just can't. I don't know if it's those injuries that have hobbled him. I don't know if he's generating enough power in his legs. I don't know if he was rushed back too early. I don't know if there's mental blockages. There's a lot of things, obviously, that personally that could be going on that you don't know about. But like I said, I think he'll figure it out. anyways, I guess I want to close this out by well, yeah, let's talk about Lance Lynn, dude. As a fat guy with a beard, he's kind of letting down our community right now. Okay, he's 36 years old. He's pumping like 93 down the middle. Like those, all the homers he gave up today were like fucking home run derbies, like type pitches. It was like these hanging cutters, like right over the middle of the plate. Like you're gonna do that to Shohei Ohtani, dude? Are you kidding me? And you're gonna do that to Mike Trout? You can't do that. You can't do that to, even Luis Rengifo. Regardless, you can't do that to any major league hitter and expect to escape unscathed. And in all honesty, he probably should have. Most other teams, like had the Dodgers traded for him, they probably would have used him for 2021. Just said, hey, we're gonna let you go or trade you or whatever. But we extended him, after that stellar 2021 year. I think he earned it. But I'm getting very close to, well, I do think that he needs to go because, but then again, who do we have that's ready to go? I don't know if I want to see Jesse Scholtens go and be our number 5 guy. I don't really know if I want to see Mike Clevenger be our number 5 guy, but that's another thing. Lance Lynn he might need to hang it up, man, because he's not fooling anyone. And then, like, he was even having a little bit of a control issue today. And then when he is throwing it in the zone, he's lobbing up these meatball sandwiches down the middle. And that's not going to work, and he doesn't throw with velo either. And he's, Father Time is undefeated. Father Time's never lost. Every single player falls off eventually. He's 36 years old. He's had a great run, but I think the Keikolitis has gotten to him, and if he doesn't throw basically like an 8-inning, like 3-hit shutout, he's dangerously close to getting the boot because he has a damn near 7 ERA, and we're 2 months into the season. He's had like 12 starts. That's not a really small sample size. That's 2 months. Like if it was like 3, 4, 5 starts, yeah, maybe I could see, hey, he'll pull it together. But you can't rely. Like, would you even want, like, if he's getting lit up like this, like, do you even trust him down the stretch? No, I mean, and that's like I said, it bothers me that we're in the AL Central, because if we're in any other division, this team's completely mudded. They're 15, 20 games under 500, or 15 or 20 games back of first place. We're only 7 right now because Minnesota is, again, they're bad, but they're miles better than the Sox right now. We're 12, 13. I lost track. We're like 12 games under 500. And even if they do somehow manage a, Miracle on Ice run, we're getting our shit kicked in by like a real contender, because I don't feel like these guys want to win. And I don't know. It's so frustrating. And as a guy who watches and live tweets every single game for the most part, it's like frustrating. It's like my mental health's taking a toll watching this team. And, after Tony La Russa was fired, and I was a big anti-TLR guy, and Pedro hasn't really, I don't know, he doesn't move the needle for me. At the end of the day, your mind starts to wonder, is ownership the problem? Is the front office the problem? Is management the problem? Or maybe these guys just aren't that fucking good. That's something I wonder, because it's just like maybe they just weren't that good last year. Maybe that we overhyped them and they're just not that good. Because, you know, we were a 500 team last year, and all the while getting managed by an alcoholic, you know, dude that was 80 years old and falling asleep in the dugout. And we're somehow worse this year. Like, I couldn't have envisioned in a million years somehow being worse than last year. And last year was hell. So I don't know. But anyways, that's going to wrap up tonight's first episode. I just want to make it short and sweet, half hour. You can listen to it in your car or whatever. I don't know. But like I said at the beginning, my DMs are open. If you want to come on and just talk Sox and just shoot the shit, and you know, I want to get to know people more and all that. So thank you all for listening. It's been a great pod, and go Sox, baby.